This Bhagavad Leela, we discussed already the killing of Trinavarta and Shakatasura. Now we're going to discuss chapter 8. Krishna shows the universal form within his mouth. Before we do that, you want to back up a little bit. We talked about Shakat. Shakat means cart, Bailgadi, bullock cart. And then one yogi friend of Kansa took the form of a ghost, and he hid himself inside the wood of that cart with a desire to kill Krishna when he was sleeping there on an Uttan Utsav, on Uttan Ekadasi after Chaturmasi, about 2.5 months or so after his birth. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that Shakatasura represents another demon. This is, of course, in chapter 7. Backtracking a little bit. And Shakat, of course, represents a cart. And on that wooden cart, that hand cart, there were so many heavy pots, big brass bell metal pots and pans that would probably be moved here and there whenever they have some festival, they cook big cooking. Krishna was placed under there for safety and quietude. And he just simply stretched up his legs a little bit and completely smashed the cart to pieces. All the heavy pots and pans went hither and thither, bounced and rolled along the ground. And the spokes of the wheel broke, and the axle broke, and the rod and the pole connecting the yoking pole that connects the two bulls to the cart, that also snapped off. And the wheels collapsed, and the whole thing just smashed all over the place. But Krishna was unscathed, didn't even get a scratch. So that demon represents the smashing of old and new bad habits, laziness and vanity. That Shakatasura represents the load bearing produced by old and bad habits. For example, we may have be hanging on to some philosophies or viewpoints, philosophical or psychological viewpoints about life or people, and we may have some old habits that are still with us from our pre-devotee times, or even new habits we picked up as devotees, to set our alarm clock for 4 o'clock, and we used to immediately get up at 4 o'clock when the alarm clock went off, but now we hit the snooze alarm 50 times, and 50 times 5 minutes. It's another 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Because every time the clock goes off at 4, and if you hit the snooze alarm, it goes off again in 5 minutes. So if you hit it 50 times, that's 250 minutes. That's 3 hours. So people can develop that as a habit that they didn't have before. In this way, they cheat themselves of steadiness and become submissive to the pushings of their mind. Manavegam, Vachavegam, Jivavegam, Manasakravegam. So we should smash this bad habit, whether it's an old bad habit or a new bad habit. And pride and laziness, these are also represented by Shakatasura. Krishna doesn't like these. These habits are so bad that they're not even good enough to get killed by Krishna's hands. Some demons Krishna slapped or grabbed them with his hands and slapped them or split their beaks apart. But this demon Krishna just kicks with his foot, kicks it out. So the mood that created by meditating on baby Krishna, breaking the cart, that removes the tendency to carry on with bad habits, lethargy, laziness, and dullness. And this is an anartha accumulated in this and past life. So many of us, we know we have bad habits. We eat prasadam at scheduled times, and then we have a habit of snacking here and there and going down the street and seeing an aloo tikki wagon and pulling our car up and say, "Give me a couple aloo tikkis." We're eating, snacking here and there. And that's a bad habit. And so we should break those and kick those out This like the cart is carrying heavy weights, so the cart represents our mind, the manoratena, the monorath. It's described in Bhagavatam. The mind is like a chariot, a rathayatra, manoratena. So in our mind, our minds become lazy. So we're carrying the bad anartha of laziness and bad habits, or vanity or pride. So these are unwanted passengers on the chariot of our mind. These are heavy pots and pans being carried on the monorath, the cart of our mind, the chariot of our mind. So Krishna kicks these off. He kicked down the cart, turned over the cart, broke the cart, threw all those heavy pots and pans off. In a similar way, we can read this Shakatasura Mardana Leela from Bhagavatam, chapter 7, 10th canto, and pray that Krishna will enter our mind, Vidunoti Saritsatam. Vidunoti Saritsatam. He'll be kind and loving to us. And Vidunoti, margin, cleanse our mind and kick out all these heavy weights and heavy pots and vanity and laziness and bad habits, so that we can practice pure devotional service without any carrying heavy weights. As everyone knows, if you're hiking in the mountains with just your shoes on and no backpack, it's quite easy to walk. But if you have a big pack on your back with 20 or 30 kilos, it's really hard to walk. So if we have our backpack, our devotional, if we have our devotee soul has a backpack full of laziness and bad habits, new and old bad habits. It's heavy baggage, heavy weights to carry up the hill on the path of Bhakti Marg. So we should kick them off, throw them out, smash them, kick them, throw them away, upturn them, and leave them scattered here and there, and go on with a clean heart and a light heart and a clean mind. And this can be accomplished by the mercy of Bhagavan Sri Krishna and the power of this Bhagavad Shravan of chapter 7, the Shakatasura Mardana. Also in the same chapter 7, there's another demon who represents another anartha, the cyclone demon, the whirlwind demon, the Trinavarta. And he represents the destruction of the pride of scholarship. Trinavarta represents the destruction of the pride of scholarship, learning, and the use of false arguments, and the company of dry logicians and those with diabolical opinions. All kinds of atheists believing in liberation and chemical evolution. In other words, Trinavarta represents a whirlwind of bad ideas. We associate with materialistic people or mundane scientists and Gnostics and Pashandis and Nayas, dry logicians, and you keep company with such non-devotee people, then your bhakti can get blown away. If there's a cyclone or a tufan in your little house, they can pick up a bus and blow it away. Prabhupada explained once when he was traveling around the world, he went through South Africa or somewhere, and he went to the next country. He said, I was in South Africa and the buses were flying through the air. There was some kind of hurricane or tornado. And it was so powerful that it picked up the city bus and was throwing it through the air like a piece of grass. That's pretty powerful. So the little bus of bhakti, the little baby of bhakti can get picked up by this whirlwind of bad ideas and thrown into the sky, into the ionosphere. The baby of bhakti can be thrown into the ionosphere. There's atmosphere and ionosphere way up there. Stratosphere, ionosphere, and be hurled up into outer space and never be seen again. So we should be very careful about being proud of our scholarship or our learning or trying to use false arguments, especially the company of bad company. In other words, a whirlwind is bad company. tornado is bad company. In other words, it's not a welcome. No one welcomes a tornado with open hands. Here comes a tornado. Come on, come on in my living room, and throw my furniture around. So no one welcomes a tornado or a tufan or a cyclone, or rather frightening, terrible things. So this demon Trinavarta is. So we shouldn't welcome the company of scientists and that believe in chemical evolution and liberation and atheists. We should rather avoid such company and consider it very dangerous and life-threatening. If a cyclone or tufan comes upon our head, we may be eliminated or wiped out or killed. So we can read this section of chapter 7 of 10th canto and pray that all such whirlwind demons will not assail our little baby of bhakti and take him for a ride, and that Krishna will protect us from bad association and always keep us in the association of pure devotees. Mahaprabhu was asked by the devotees when they came to Puri during the Chaturmasya, and they were returning after Chaturmasya and celebrating so many festivals of Lord Jagannath's Snan Yatra and Rath Yatra and Chandan Yatra and all these things with Lord Chaitanya and Lord Jagannath, and they said, can you describe what is the proper conduct or behavior for your followers? We are Chaitanya Vaishnavas, we are Vaishnavas, we are Bhaktas. How should we behave? What is the actual proper behavior? What is the definition of Vaishnava? And at that time, it's spoken in Sanatana Shiksha, chapter 22 of Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 87. Verse 87. Mahaprabhu replied to that question about what is the definition of a Vaishnava. He said, Vaishnava is, how does he behave? He said the essential aspect of Vaishnava conduct is to give up bad association. So what is bad association? And Lord Chaitanya replied to them. He said, listen, what is the proper achar? What is Vaishnava achar? The conduct or behavior of Vaishnava? This is it. A Vaishnava achar. Asat Sangha Tyag, a Vaishnava achar. Asat Sangha Tyag, a Vaishnava achar. Stri Sangi Eka Asaru, Krishna Bhaktar. Now this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's reply to the, I think it was from Kalna, or Kundavasi, or maybe Sri Kalna, one of those devotees, they asked him, Srikanda, the village of Srikanda in Navadvip Mandal, I believe. They asked about what is behavior, and Lord Chaitanya said, this is the conduct or behavior of Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava especially. He gives up bad association. This is the primary aspect of Vaishnava conduct. So then someone says, well, what is bad association? Well, there's two types of bad association. One type is Sri Sangi. Those who associate with women, they have illicit association with women. Or persons who associate with such people and have attachment to worldly matters. That's one type of bad association, the Sri Sangi. Womanizers, or people that associate with people that womanize. In other words, materialistic type, and loose people. Then the second type is association with non-devotees who are intent on nirvishesh gyan, impersonalism. So this is Sri Sangi and Eka Sadhu. Asadhu means he's not a sadhu, he's an unsaintly person. Then Krishna Bhakta, someone who's not a devotee. So all these categories should be avoided. A sadhaka who desires to attain bhakti should carefully reject these two types of bad association. Lord Chaitanya also talks about this association later on, chapter 24 of Madhya Lila, verse 104. Sarasanga Krishna Kripa Bhaktira Swabhav Eitine Savachadai Kare Krishna Bhav. What is the swabhav bhakti, what is this, the nature of devotional service? Sarusanga Krishna Kripa Bhaktir Swabhav. Association with the devotee, Sarusanga, the mercy of Krishna, Krishna Kripa, and the nature of devotional service, Bhakti Swabhav. They help one to give up all undesirable association and gradually attain elevation to the platform of love of Godhead. So here in this verse, Lord Chaitanya is describing, I believe it's Lord Chaitanya, and CC. Someone might say, well, Lord Chaitanya, you're saying the Vaishnavachara, the behavior of a Vaishnava, the principal characteristics of behavior is he doesn't associate with non-devotees and materialists and womanizers, etc., Krishna Bhaktas and Mayavadis, Nirviseshvadis. But then how do we avoid that? How can we be very careful about our conduct, our Vaishnavachara? How can we maintain good association and protect ourselves from falling into the clutches of such undesirable, unwanted association? So he gave a 3-point formula to prevent one from falling into bad association. One is it's the sabhav of devotional service. It's actually the nature. And one so much, the sabhav, the nature of devotional service is one who's so much engaged, Shravanam Kirtana Vishnu Smaram. He doesn't have time to mix up with these Gnostics and Pashandis and non-devotees and Krishna Bhaktas. And then the other thing is the mercy of Krishna and the association of devotee. So we always associate with devotees, and we become pure and lose our interest or taste for non-devotional association. And if we're serious devotees, very serious sadhakas, trying to arrange our life in terms of Krishna Anukulya, favorable actions and movements for the pleasure of Krishna, then Krishna's mercy will come into our lives, and Krishna will personally arrange to remove all the undesirable association, undesirable people from our world. So this is the situation with this Trinavarta demon, that this anartha represents all kinds of atheists believing in liberation, chemical evolution, and giving up the company of dry logicians and people with diabolical anti-Krishna conscious viewpoints and opinions. So now we'll start with chapter 8 of 10th canto. This is Virata Rup Darshan. Balagopal shows Virata Rupa in his mouth to Mother Yashoda. Vasudeva requested Garga Muni, the family priest of the Yadu dynasty, to visit Nanda Maharaj. When Garga Muni arrived in Brajagokul, Nanda Baba got up very happily and welcomed him with folded hands. Nanda appreciated that Garga Muni was not ordinary. Garga Muni was comfortably seated, and Nanda Maharaj said in a gentle voice, "Dear sir, because you are a great devotee, you are full in yourself. Nevertheless, it is my duty to serve you. What may I do to please you? You move from place to place like a paribrajak, not for your own interest, but for the sake of poor-hearted householders like me. O best of the Brahmanas, you have mastered astrology, so you know about the past life and how it affects the present life. You have come to my house, so please execute the samskaras for my 2 sons and calculate their horoscopes. Please reveal their Janma Kundali." Garga Muni replied to Nanda Maharaj, "My dear Nanda, I am the priest of the Yadu dynasty. So if I perform the samskaras for your sons, Kanai Balai, Kansa will surely consider that your sons are the sons of Devaki. Kansa is a great diplomat, and a very sinful man. Yogamaya told him the child who would kill him was already born somewhere else, although it was previously predicted that Devaki's 8th son would do so. Kamsa understands your great friendship with Vasudeva. If he hears that I have done the samskaras, he will consider all these points and suspect that Krishna is the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Then he will come and try to kill your son. Nanda Baba replied, O Rishi, if you think that you're performing the samskara for my son will make Kamsa suspicious, then do it secretly in the Goshala, and don't tell anyone, even my relatives. Gargamuni agreed with Nanda Baba's proposal. While performing the Namkarana, name-giving ceremony, Gargamuni said, Rohini Nandan, thou will give great happiness to his relatives and friends, and thus he will be known as Rama. Because he will manifest extraordinary bodily strength, he will be called Bala. And because he unites the two families of Nanda and Vasudeva, he will be known as Sankarsha, complete attraction. Although Gargamuni disclosed the secret of Krishna's birth, he did not inform Nanda that Balaram had been transferred from Devaki's womb to Rohini's womb. Gargamuni continued, Your son, Krishna, appears as an incarnation in every millennium. In the past he assumed the colors of white, red and yellow. Now he's in a blackish color. Because your son appeared as the son of Vasudeva, he is sometimes called Vasudeva. To increase the bliss of the Gokulavasis, your child will always act for your welfare, and thus you shall surpass all difficulties. You should know that those who are devoted to Krishna can never be defeated by demons like Kamsa's associates. Nanda, your child is as good as Narayan. Qualities, opulence, name, fame, and influence. Raise him very carefully and with caution. Gargamuni then took permission to leave and departed. Having heard from him, Nanda Maharaj felt himself to be very fortunate indeed. After some time, Dao and Gopal began to crawl, enjoy their childhood play. They would crawl in the mud created by cow dung and cow urine. They appeared like slithering serpents. When they would hear the ankle bells of elderly gopis walking by, they would follow such persons, thinking them to be their mothers. But when Kanai Balai realized that these were not their mothers, they became afraid and rushed home to Yashoda and Rohini. The babies looked very beautiful, decorated with mud, gobar, and mutra. Yashoda and Rohini would pick up the two boys with great affection, embrace them, and suckle them on their breasts. The babies would smile, and at that time one could see small teeth becoming visible. Krishna and Balaram would catch the tails of the calves, and the frightened calf would bolt and run away, dragging the boys through the mud of Braj. When the gopis saw these pastimes, they would stop their household chores and laugh, enjoying the play. As the calves dragged them hither and thither, Krishna and Balaram acted as if they were afraid, so they would hold even tighter to the calves' tails to prevent from falling off. And the ladies would have to go rescue them. This was all part of the fun. Leela Purushottam Sri Krishna ki.
Joy.
Besides this transcendental pleasure, there was also transcendental anxiety, because the boys were too restless. While performing their household duties, Yashoda and Rohini would be anxious that they would not be able to protect Krishna and Balaram from the threat of the horned animals, fire animals with claws like monkeys, cats, dogs, and bushes with sharp thorns. After a short time, Dao and Gopal began to stand up and walk a little by catching hold of something. Soon they could walk nicely. Krishna and Balaram began to play with their other children as well. The gopis in Gokul took great pleasure watching Krishna's restless activities. Just to relish these pastimes again and again, they would approach Yashoda and speak as follows. The elderly gopis. O Saki, your son, Lalaji, sometimes he comes to our houses before we milk the cows in the early morning, and he lets the calves loose. When our husbands find out, they become angry, and your child smiles innocently. Sometimes Gopal steals our yogurt, butter and milk, which he then eats or drinks. If there's any monkeys around, he gives them a share. And when the monkeys are so full that they won't take any more butter or yogurt, your Lala breaks our yogurt pots. And if your child cannot find anything to steal, he will pinch the babies and make them cry. Then he leaves. When the milk and yogurt are hung from the ceiling, Krishna and Balaram stack up the grinding stones and pieces of wood and climb up on these to reach the pots. Then they take their sticks and poke holes in the pots, and the butter and yogurt leaks out. If we hide the milk and yogurt in a dark room, the jewels on their body illuminate so brilliantly that they can steal the pots, even in the darkness. When Krishna is caught, our husbands pretend to be angry and say, "Hey, you're a thief." And Krishna replies, says, "I'm not a thief, you're a thief." Sometimes Krishna gets angry and passes stool or urine in a clean place. Now look, this expert thief is sitting here before you, looking just like an innocent, good boy. When Mother Yashoda would look at her son's eyes, he appeared to be very afraid. She would hesitate to chastise him. The gopis who were complaining would simply look at Krishna's beautiful face and enjoy transcendental bliss. Yashoda would smile at the fun and forget all about punishing her Lala. When Krishna and Balaram were caught stealing butter, they would deny it, saying, "Do you think that there is any scarcity in our house?" When the monkeys would become full and refuse to eat anymore, Krishna and Balaram would say, "This butter and yogurt are completely useless." After describing Krishna's naughty behavior, the gopis would urge Yashoda to take away his jewels so he couldn't find out their hidden yogurt pots. When Yashoda would agree to the proposal, then the gopis would change their mind and say, "Oh, even without his jewels, he has such a great effulgence, he can see in the dark easily." Yashoda would advise the gopis to keep their things more carefully, so he won't steal them. One day, while Krishna and Balaram and their playmates were playing, the playmates went to Yashoda and complained, "Mother Yashoda, Krishna's eaten dirt." Mother Yashoda was always in anxiety, worrying about Krishna's welfare. She ran there, picked up her son, and looked in his mouth. "Dear Krishna, why are you so restless that you've eaten dirt in a solitary place? All your friends have complained against you, including your elder brother Balaram. Gopal replied, "Mother, I have not eaten dirt. My friends are all lying. They have plotted together to get you to punish me. My elder brothers joined them. If you think I'm lying, then look in my mouth and see for yourself." Accepting the challenge, Mother Yashoda ordered, "If you have not eaten dirt, then open your mouth wide." Krishna opened his mouth, and without disturbing Yashoda's natural Vatsalya bhav, Krishna displayed his vibhuti. Within Krishna's mouth, Mother Yashoda saw all moving, non-moving entities, outer space, directions, mountains, oceans, islands, earth, planetary systems, the process of creation, senses, mind, three modes, time, instincts, karma. And not only that, Mother Yashoda saw herself in Vrindavan taking Krishna upon her lap, and while seeing all this, she became confused about the nature of her son. Mother Yashoda wondered, what is this? Is this a dream? Is this an illusion created by Maya? Or has this vision been produced by my own mind? Is this a delusion? Is this due to some mystic power of my child? Actually, Mother Yashoda reasoned as follows. First, Yashoda thought that she might be dreaming. But then she rejected the idea because her eyes were opened and she was not sleeping. So, it wasn't a dream. Next, Yashoda thought it could be an illusion created by Deva Maya. And she rejected this also, considering herself to be an insignificant person that the Devas would not have any concern to deal with. So it's not Deva Maya. It's not her dream, her swapna. It's not created by the demigods, because they have no reason to interact with her. So it's not a creation of Deva Maya. As for being mentally deranged, she felt quite fit and healthy. Thus she concluded that her son had mystic power, as predicted by Garga Muni. So she didn't think it was some hallucination created by a malfunctioning brain. She said this must be mystic power, because Garga Muni predicted that all the powers of vibhutis of Narayan would be in her son. Mother Yashoda continued thinking, "Let me surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because He is the cause of all causes. It is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I wrongly think that Nanda Baba is my husband, Krishna my son. And because I am Nanda Maharaj's queen, all the cows and calves are my possessions, and the gopas and gopis are my subjects. Actually, I am the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, and He is my ultimate shelter." It is a fact that when one is confronted by overwhelming difficulties, the only solution is to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, like Mother Yashoda. By the grace of the Lord, Mother Yashoda understood the complete philosophy of life. The next moment, however, by the influence of the internal potency, Yogamaya, she once again became absorbed in maternal affection for her son. Parikshit asked Shukadev if he could describe the previous auspicious activities that Yashoda and Nanda had performed to achieve perfection in ecstatic love, because he had heard how Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. But yet, it is Nanda and Yashoda who got the privilege and fortune of enjoying Krishna's childhood pastimes, and thus their position is certainly superior. Shukadeva Goswami then said, Drona and his wife Dara once said to Brahma, "O Pitamaha, please allow us to be born on earth, and after our appearance let the Supreme Lord appear as our son. In this way, the Lord can propagate bhakti, the ultimate goal of life, so that those born in the material world may very easily be delivered from their miserable condition. Brahma replied, Tatastu, let it be. Thereafter Drona and Dara appeared in Vrindavan as Nanda and Yashoda. And Krishna appeared there with Balaram to uphold the benediction of Brahma. Actually, Parikshit knew that Yashoda and Nanda are the eternal mother and father of Krishna. And they are not ordinary human beings, they are Nitya Parishads. Still, Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadev because he wanted to know whether a sadhana siddha devotee, a conditioned soul, who follows the principles of devotional service to achieve perfection, he wanted to know if a sadhana siddha sadhaka of jiva tattva, can he attain the position of Krishna's mother and father? Drona and Dhara are the eternal mother and father of Krishna. When they were asked by Brahma to produce progeny, they requested that the Supreme Lord could become their son. It is not possible for a sadhana siddha devotee to become the father or mother of Krishna, for Krishna's parents are already designated. By following the principles exhibited by Nanda and Yashoda, ordinary living entities can, however, attain Vatsalya Bhav, Vatsalya Rati, parental affection or parental love, and attain the same kind of affection for Krishna, or at least similar, that Nanda and Yashoda exhibited in Braja Gokul. So this interesting point Vishwanath makes in regard to Drona and Dara. They performed pure sadhana bhakti and prayed for pure prema bhakti. This was different from the bhakti of Prishni and Sutapa, who became Vasudeva and Devaki. At least they had the opportunity, because they performed bhakti mixed with austerity and yoga. Drona was born in Braj as Nanda, and Dara was born as Yashoda. Actually, it should be understood that Drona and Dara were sadhana siddhas. They entered into the Nitya Siddha forms of Nanda and Yashoda at that time. And after the Leela, they were returned to the heavenly planets from where they came. Because Nanda and Yashoda, no one becomes Krishna's mother and father. They kind of entered that, they became an avesh of the already eternally existing Nanda and Yashoda. So they could experience that Vatsalya Bhav. So they had that momentary experience in Boma Vrindavan. Then when the eternal Nanda and Yashoda went back to the Goloka, then Drona and Dara came out of them and went back to wherever they came from or whatever. That's how it's described. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananda Kanda Bhagavan ki jai, jai jai Shri Radhe.